Today, on Be Something Wonderful, God's will for you is perfect fulfillment. Your work is to claim it. I am your host, Tom Kearin, and this is the Be Something Wonderful studio of higher consciousness, where we help you level up and become the best version of yourself. Creators, welcome back and good morning here from Las Vegas, Nevada. I want to talk to you about a client that has been an ongoing client. And this is the client that's famous for the affirmation, conditions are conditions, but I am. I've talked about that affirmation in several videos now. And he really just booked a session to tell me about his powerful manifestation, his powerful version of reality that he is now occupying. He, at the time, he wanted to manifest a huge promotion, right, where he was in charge. And this entailed a few things, and one of them was an exam. And so he booked this session. He saw himself at the top. He saw himself in this position. He didn't so much focus on the exam. He focused on himself being in that position, that it's a sure thing. And of course, he called to share with me that he scored in the top 3 of this exam. Very competitive exam. Top 3. It's a sure thing. It's a slam dunk now, this promotion. And then he also shared his sister is a client as well. I haven't talked with her for a while. But part of her manifestation was to be accepted and have success with her art in a huge art exhibit. And what happened was the conditions showed her that she got turned down for an exhibit in New York. But what did she do? She lived in her assumption that she is a successful artist, that her work is being shown. And then she earned the spot in an exhibit in Paris, France, much bigger than the one in New York. Do you see this, guys? And this is contrasted to another session I had yesterday, and that's really what I'm revolving this lesson around, is that this one client said, well, and this is a new client, saying, Tom, well, maybe it's God's will. I see all of these other people having success, but maybe it's God's will. Maybe it's fate, that this is just what the experience I have to go through. So I want to hit this idea of, I've hit fate before and God's will. We know that, remember, God wills for you perfect fulfillment, right? God has given you the kingdom. That's God's will, right? God wills what you will. God doesn't get meddle in the middle. God doesn't get in the middle of what you choose. So we're going to hit this. Remember, what did the client that I talked to, that conditions are conditions, but I am, and his sister, both clients, what's going on? What's the difference between that and the client that's sort of looking outward and saying, I haven't manifested. I don't know where it is. Nothing's happened. Nothing's changed. Maybe it's God's will. These clients are making their assumption and desired end the only reality, no matter what. What we've talked about in the last 2 videos. That's how you claim it. That's how you imagine it. That's how you affirm it. That's how you announce it. I get that question a lot, even from this new client yesterday. Well, how do I claim it? How do I imagine it? How do I affirm it? How do I announce it? You are reality. I don't know how many more ways I can say this. There's nothing outside of you. The Father and I are one, but the Father is greater than I. You are one with all that power, and it's coming through you as you, right? The 3D events, the people and conditions must yield to your assumptions in who and what you're conscious of being. And this has happened with that client, that conditions are conditions, and his sister. 3D rearranged itself around their powerful standing in their assumption and who they're conscious of being, no matter what the conditions were showing them. So let's hit this a little bit more. This new client said, well, why hasn't it happened for me? Maybe it's going according to God's will, right? That there's a lesson to learn. And by desiring and wanting this, I'm going against the will of God. Hear this. I really want to hit this again. God's will for you is perfect fulfillment. Right? God said it. Do not fear, little flock. In other words, do not fear, little me, little thoughts. For it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. That's God's will. God's will for you is I am. perfect fulfillment. You get to choose how you're going to experience that I amness, how you're going to experience that ultimate reality. God gave you free will to choose, but you are absolute fulfillment, right? So let's hit this a little bit more. The Father's will is always I am. Neville got it. I am not doesn't exist. That's not the Father's will. That's your will, right? That's the small will saying I'm not this and I'm not that. Remember, there's no price to pay. There's no lesson to learn. You don't have to earn it. You don't have to deserve it. You don't have to be worthy of it. I really want to hit this because this came up in a few sessions yesterday. The kingdom is yours. God is clear on that. Now, how are you going to experience that kingdom, right? Are you going to be, remember the story of the prodigal son? And they had the older son and the younger son. The younger son, like all of us, before we really assume and claim this power, we waste our inheritance, right? That's what it said. The prodigal went out and wasted his inheritance on partying and all that kind of stuff. But then we get it, we claim it, we assume it, we realize that the kingdom is ours. Right? We realize that it's all ours, no matter what those conditions are. And then when we turn to God, God turns to us. That's what it said in the prodigal son, right? And when the father saw him a long way off, he went running to him. You just got to turn to that goodness within, right? And or you're going to, and remember, the older son, we play all the parts. So we play the father, we play the older son, we play the younger son, the prodigal. And remember, the older son was upset. Father, why? I've been with you the whole time. I've done every command. I've done everything you say. Yet you don't throw a party for me, yet I don't get that good. Do you hear it? That's us saying, I've done everything. I've done all the processes. Maybe it's God's will. Maybe I've imagined, I've assumed it, I've claimed it. I've been in the conviction. Why isn't it happening for me? Do you see it? That's the older son, because you didn't claim it. Right? You're not making it your only reality. You're looking out there and wondering where it is. And every time you look out there, you create the reality that it's not out there. Do you see it? You are always with me, and all that I have is yours. That's what the father said to the older son when he said, hey, why don't you throw me a party? Why don't you give it to me? And he said, it's already yours. Just claim it, assume it, step into it. That's what the Father's saying to you. There's no quid pro quo with God. It's unconditional. It's yours. You need only claim it, right? To experience it. It's already yours. But if you don't know yourselves, then you live in poverty, and you are the poverty. Gospel of Thomas. In other words, if you don't know that, if you don't go to that knowing that you are one with God, that you are reality, then you live in poverty, and then you are the poverty. In other words, there's no reality outside of you. There's no reality outside of your perceiving. That's the difference between those two clients, the brother and the sister, who made a claim, who stood in their assumption no matter what, and this new client, who we moved, by the way. By the end of her session, she's announcing it. She's claiming it. Stay tuned, because she is rocking this reality, right? Stay tuned. But if you don't know yourselves, then you live in poverty, and you are the poverty. This is big. In the law of assumption, your consciousness of being is the Father's will. Neville got it. In other words, I am that. Who and what you're conscious of being is the Father's will. Like the prodigal, you need only claim it and assume it to experience what's already yours. Right? God gave you free will to choose your experience of the kingdom of reality. This is what Neville Goddard says. In this sense, this is what Neil Donald Walsh, what Conversations of God says, in regards to God giving you free will to experience the reality to experience reality the way you desire or want to. In this sense, your will for you is God's will for you. In that sense, God wills for you what you will, because God gave you the free will to choose. God gave you everything. But you get to choose how you're going to experience that everything, right? Are you going to see it from lack or love? Are you going to see it from fulfillment or in unity or separation, right? And non-fulfillment and lack, right? That's big. So let's hit this. You can create nothing, but your assumption determines what portion of creation you will experience. Neville got it. This is big. Neville Goddard saying creation's finished. Everything is already yours. But based on your assumption of who and what you believe you are, like Jesus said, who do you say I am? You determine what portion of all that isness you experience. What part of all that is, of all the God that you are you going to experience? Because in the 3D reality, in this experience, we condition ourselves, we limit ourselves to focus in on and put our attention on some portion of all that is. So we can experience it in time, in linear time, as it unfolds, to enjoy it and revel in it. Our 3D mechanism can only see that less than 1% of the time, but you get to determine what that portion is. What part, what 1% do you want to see? In other words, all possibilities, all conditions, events, all realities, all timelines, all scripts, all versions, all you already exists. By who and what you're conscious of being, you determine the version of events that you experience. Who and what you're being, you determine what part of these possibilities, what part of these realities, what part of these scripts, what part of these versions you will experience. You have infinite free will, Neville got it, in choosing your assumptions, but no power to determine conditions and events. Do you see it? Because all the conditions and events have already been determined. They're all out there. All frames of reality are already out there. How do you determine which ones you're going to experience? By your assumptions. By not judging any conditions. Remember what Bashar said. Nothing has meaning. No conditions, no events. Nothing in reality has meaning unless you give it meaning. Only the meaning you give it. You determine the version of events. Right? In a video a couple years ago, I challenged you to do a 48-hour challenge, that over the next 48 hours, in some event that you're going to, determine the version you would like to see. Play with it, right? In fact, it could be an outrageous version. Play with it. You determine the version. Don't go into meanings and events just saying, well, it will be whatever it is. You get to determine what that will be. I'll see if I can find that video on that. Or we'll just do a new one, right? We're leveling up here. So here you are, right, on a given lifeline, on a given reality. You're seeing some version of all that is. And you're imagining, you're in your conviction, you're doing the processes like the second son, the older son in the prodigal. You're with the father. You're doing everything right. You feel like you're righteous. You feel like you're a good person. You feel like you deserve it. You're working hard. You're studying. You feel like you deserve it because of that. But remember, there's no right of anything. You have it by birth, it's all yours. The kingdom is already yours. Whether you experience that knowing is by right of consciousness, by right of consciousness of who and what you're being. That's the only right there is. It's all yours anyway. God doesn't give something to somebody and not somebody else. It's all yours. All his sons have everything. Right? So here you are, and you're saying, well, I'm imagining, but why isn't it manifested? Where is it? You're looking out there. You're wondering. You're asking the Father, God, where is it? What else do I have to do? That keeps you on a similar lifeline, a similar script. You see it, and you move along. Even as you imagine it, you're having the same experience, very similar experience as you move along that lifeline. And then you call it fate. You call it God's will. A higher plan. You see others get what they want, but not me. It must be a higher plan. But it's not. That script is fixed. That you keep trying to resist and see it on that script. All scripts are written. You want to highlight that slide and then move to the lifeline, to the film roll, to the reality where your wish is fulfilled. But you don't move to that new reality by asking, why hasn't it manifested yet? Where is it? I'm doing all the work. I deserve it. I've studied. I know Neville got it. I've studied all the processes. I've studied all the grades. Tom, I've watched all 1,400 of your videos. I get that a few times. But it's not working. Your channel's not working. It's not working for me. Nothing's working. Do you see? That's what you're saying to God. It's just not working, God. This relationship's just not working out. Right? Okay, guys, you light it up. It's you. Look, this is what the prodigal son, this is what the older son says when the father, when the older son decides he doesn't want to go to the party that they're throwing for the prodigal. Remember, the father said the prodigal son was dead and now he's alive, right? He dropped that old version of himself and rose in consciousness and claimed his goodness, claimed his inheritance. But the older son's still not claiming it, still wanting it by right of righteousness, by right of that he deserves it anyway. I'm imagining, but I deserve it. Where is it? So, and this is what the older son says, look, for so many years I've been serving you, and I have never neglected a command of yours. Yet you have never given me a young goat so I may celebrate with my friends. Well, do you get it? And then what does the father say to me? Son, you've been with me the whole time. What is mine is yours. It has always been yours. But you must announce it. What does that mean? You must stand in that assumption of your wish fulfilled. Light up that slide. Make that your only reality no matter what the conditions are. 3D reality has no choice but to rearrange itself around you. Look within. Stay in the vertical of who you really are, that I amness. It has to make that the only reality. Make that assumption of your wish fulfilled enough. Because it's more than enough, because it's the only reality. Make that the only reality, and it will be your only reality. Outside and inside, right? So this is big today. How do I believe? How do I know? I am is the only reality. All those questions came up yesterday, and I've hit faith in many videos and all of that, truth, faith, inner conviction. But I just want to say, every time you say that, you're saying I am not. And I am not doesn't exist. I am is absolute belief and conviction. Therefore, belief and conviction is the only reality, because I am is the only reality. Doubt is simply believing in something you don't want. There's only belief. There's only conviction. The question is, what do you have conviction in? What do you have belief in? Is it in something that you don't want? It makes no sense. Why have conviction and belief in something you don't want? Remove your light from it. Remove your belief from it. And only believe in that. So you're just saying I am. You're always saying I am something. I am not doesn't exist. So what are you? Who and what? That's why Jesus asked that question. And the disciples went off on a tangent. Jeremiah, the prophets, John the Baptist, who knows who you are? Jesus go, but who do you say I am? Who do you say you are? Because that's what we're talking about. It's not what I am not, doesn't exist, not possible. Make your assumption and desire to end the only reality, and it will be so. Right? Looking out there implies I am not, which is impossible. Right? Stay in the vertical of who you are, that I am. Right? And then everything else will be added onto you. God's will for you is perfect fulfillment. Your work is to claim it. I am your host, Tom Kearin, and this is the Be Something Wonderful studio of higher consciousness, where we help you level up and become the best version of yourself. Creators, thank you. Thank you for being with me. Thank you for liking and sharing and commenting on the videos. Thank you for joining our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/Be Something Wonderful. That's the Be Something Wonderful Ambassadors, where you can share insight and guidance with others and ask for insight and guidance. Thank you for being with us on Instagram and Twitter and on our membership channel. And there's a link below if you would like to join. There's additional powerful content there. I released a new video a few days ago. There'll be more coming, as well as a live stream. Creators, with great love, with great light, and infinite gratitude, this is Tom Kearin coming to you from the Be Something Wonderful studios in Las Vegas, Nevada, with more content. Until then, with great love, with great light and infinite gratitude, we'll see you soon.